Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of PitchUs. Super excited to have you here today. My name is Tim Cooley. I am the author of the Pitch Deck book. My co-host today is Jeff Erickson. Jeff, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi everybody. Jeff Erickson. I'm with a company called Forecaster. We do financial modeling, making financial modeling easy for startup founders. Super excited to have Gary on here. So, Gary, we'll let you kind of take the show and go ahead and pitch us.
All right, great. Here's my pitch. So, my name's Gary Cohn. I'm the co-founder of Luxury Travel Hackers. What we're doing is we're leveraging travel influencers and content to make vacations bookable on social media. And so, a few things that are important to know is that 86% of all travelers across every generation, except for boomers, are choosing their next vacation on social media. The problem is they're then spending 10 to 20 hours of research on multiple websites to build a trip that was basically just presented to them. And influencers are struggling to create sources of revenue from their travel and content. Another interesting figure here is that, travel content is the number one reason that people follow influencers at 62%, which was a shocking number to me, actually. It's 15% higher than beauty and fashion, which we obviously know dominates e-commerce. And so our solution here is removing that friction between the discovery and the booking process and allowing consumers to watch and book travel fast and in one place through one user experience. Giving influencers the ability to convert followers into customers through a white label landing page and then make money. And what we've done is we've created a full booking engine to do this process, similar that you would see, a booking.com or an Airbnb, et cetera. The way the product works is that the influencers' pages are auto-generated based on a lead form that they fill out. And then the influencer can link their travel pages to their social accounts, where followers can then book directly from the creator's landing page for instant booking. We have a bunch of different products, from customize your trip, we're not sure where you want to go. So the way the company makes money is on commissions. We get a 15 to 20% commission from vendors, similar to booking.com and Airbnb. And we do that in two ways. We have a paid ad model, and then we have the organic side of what we do. And so on the paid ad side, we saw some really impressive numbers with our betas that we launched. On the organic side, which is most of our influencer partnerships that we're doing, the great thing about it is that there's no cost of acquisition for a customer. So the influencer is promoting to their followers. We're handling the booking, fulfillment, and customer service, and then we do a shared revenue with them. So here's how we know it works. We've ran 2 betas through our social media accounts. We have about 15 theme accounts across social media that we did our betas through. We did 1.2 million in sales. It was, I would say, a wild success and a wild failure at the same time, and I'll explain why. We had a lead cost. It was a success because we had a lead cost that was on the paid ad side that was 30 times lower than industry standard. And it was a failure because we had a lead cost at 30 times lower than industry standard. And we're completely unprepared for the hundreds of people that entered our sales funnel. We still managed to do 1.2 million in sales. And then we sort of stopped the process to build out the entire automated, booking platform where we can automate everything. We currently have about 300 influencers on our wait list with 80 million followers, which gives us a pipeline value of 72 million. Now that's based on a 0.01 conversion of their followers, which is kind of what we saw on the organic side, which is a 1/10 of 1%. And obviously, we all know travel is a huge market, but our target market are millennials and Gen Xers who make between 60 and 250K a year. And then Gen Z is going to be entering this demographic in about 2 years. Our go-to-market strategy, we're going to onboard the 300 influencers to start promoting their trips to their 80 million followers across their social media. And then we're also going to continue doing the ad spend to promote our 30 destinations that we have with over 150 customizable packages through our Luxury Travel Hackers accounts that we have. This is an important slide, the competition. I want to talk about it for a second. So Trovo Trip, started in 2017, I believe. They've received 20 million in funding so far. And what they do is hosted trips by influencers. So, for example, Janet, the influencer, is doing a yoga Bali retreat, and she wants to invite 10 to 20 of her followers to join her on that trip. This is a great business model. It's easy to sell those spots. It lacks scalability in the sense that Janet can only do so many trips and only so many people can join on that trip, while it's also limiting the amount of travelers to people who want to travel in a group. Thatch is a platform where influencers can sell itineraries in basically what would be a PDF format. And so it allows consumers to buy the itinerary for between $10 and probably $30, but then it's not solving the main problem where you have to go and figure out how to book it and, you know, use the links. And so it's a difficult process. I think that their price point makes it really, really hard to scale massively. And then TripScout did something really smart, which is part of our business model as well, is that, you know, they buy Instagram accounts. And so they've bought about 30 million followers across dozens of Instagram accounts. And what they do is they buy the account and then they rebrand it TripScout. So if they bought like tropical destinations, they would rebrand it TripScout Tropical Destinations. And this last year, they raised another $10 million. They introduced the ability to book discounted hotel stays. And the way that it worked was that you had to download an app, and then you had to go through a process where you would get sent a DM. And there were sort of a lot of steps to booking something. And I think unless they sort of fix those problems, which I'm assuming they will, they're going to have a lot of churn rate on that. And so a little bit about the team. There's me, you know, I was a film producer prior to starting the company, and I specialized in operations and budgeting. So I'm really more of a COO operator at heart. Katie, my co-founder, she's been in the travel space for 12 years. She built a really successful boutique travel agency. And then Danny, our CMO, you know, head of digital at Live Nation, Samsung, worked at Apple Music. He's taken over a dozen 8-figure beauty and fashion brands, you know, to millions in sales through influencer and social media marketing. And then Drew, our CTO, you know, 20 years experience in technology. He and I have been friends for 25 years, so he's like family to me. A little bit about our investors and advisors. So our first investor was Thomas Mangus, who was the former CEO of Starwood. Michael Flory is one of our advisors. He was the VP of product at Expedia for 10 years. And then Corrine Schneider, who was the former president of the NASDAQ private market. And then Chris Schonk, who's the managing director of ATX Partners. And so, which brings me to our round page, where, you know, we're venture backed by ATX Ventures. We're also venture backed by House Capital. House Capital is an incubator program that I went through last year that's funded by Andreessen Horowitz. And so we're doing a 1.5 million round. We're 40% subscribed, and we've got another soft commitment on 150 of that. This round is going to get us to profitability by Q3, where we're making more money than we're burning. With over 500 trip offerings around the world, our 300 influencers onboarded, and we're projecting sales somewhere in the vicinity of 30 million by our Series A, which we're looking at doing in end of Q2, probably beginning of Q3 of 2024. And thank you very much. That's it.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that. That was great.
Thanks.
Great job, Gary.
So I got a lot of things, but first off, let's start with I have some questions too, but we'll go into the things that we like, and I'll get to some of my questions.
Okay, great.
Jeff, start us off.
Okay, Gary, excellent job. I mean, I thought the deck was put together nicely. I thought it flowed well. You know, I think that, I mean, I liked your competition. You spent, you know, some time on that. Could say maybe too much time, but at the same time, I thought it was relevant. So that was super helpful. The fact that you've got the traction you do was really, you know, really admirable and caught my attention. I got that right out of the gate. As soon as you start saying, hey, we put $100,000 in, we generated 1.2 million in revenue. Ears perked up, and I think you've got something here, obviously. So I think you got a lot of good stuff going for you. I like the ask slide. Tim will tell you, get rid of the thank you slide. Sorry to steal your thunder there, Tim, but you're going to get that. But
Let's
good
get off
job on
that
the
one.
ask slide, and the fact that you've already got investors that are committed, existing investors coming in. A lot going for you. So great job, Gary.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot more I can echo. The flow was great. I don't know if you used the template that I provide or whatever, but it was really solid. Your traction's amazing. Like when you said 1.2 million, everyone would be like, "Wait, what?" And this is one of those products. Like honestly, we see a lot of travel technology in angel investing and early stage companies because a lot of people want to get into it. So the traction's really, really huge in this case. And then it's like Jeff said, I can only repeat what Jeff said. I think he spent a little bit too much time on competition, but it was important. So I don't know what I would change there, but
I
might
think
not have to.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably sort of spotlighting the first two is important. I don't think I really need to go into Trip Scout. It's a little, you know what I mean? I think the first two kind of validate it, and then I can move on.
Yeah. I mean, that was great.
I found it all interesting. Even the Trip Scout stuff it seemed relevant and
yeah, I mean, it's relevant in the sense that, like, that's part of what we've done is bought theme accounts and did all of our beta testing through that. You know what I mean? And it's going to be 30% of our model where we have our own content and our own social accounts as well. So that's the only reason why I think it's relevant. But
that makes sense. Yeah, I'd actually just like to get into places that we can help. And honestly, I think what the feedback we're going to give you is going to be really nitpicky because it can be, right? We're not solving major things. So, Jeff, let's do that. And I think you probably have some questions just like I do.
Yeah.
So
let me kick off with a quick question for you, Gary. When you mentioned you've got, you generated that 1.2 million in revenue in kind of a test case beta, is that 1.2 million and then you're getting 15% of that?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a gross revenue and then really your net revenue.
Yeah, we landed at I think probably, I don't know, it was somewhere around 17%. But basically what we did was we did 17K in ad spend and we did the 1.2 million in sales and then generated about, just under 170K.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say like 180. So you've really got a return. And this is what I'm going to be looking at as an investor is you put in 100K, you got out 180. Right.
Well, we put in 17 and we got 180.
You put in 17K.
We landed at a 9x ROAS.
Okay. That I don't think came across, and I would definitely include that and say we've got a 9x ROAS because there was a disconnect there. I immediately when you said, I got it that you put in 100,000 and that you generated 1.2 million. And I was like, okay. And then if that is 15%,
would have been.
I'm doing the math going, I'm not sure that's that great. But what you just said, if you can clarify that for me and then hit the 9x ROAS, now I'm like, okay, we can just pour money on this thing and do this all day long. So I would definitely go back and clarify that slide. Same thing for so there were a couple of missing things here. One, and I don't know honestly, how critical this would be, but your market size, we didn't have a TAM SAM in there really. It was,
we did.
Oh, was it there? Oh, I did miss it. Okay, you got it. So, I think that everybody knows this is a huge market, and so probably didn't need to spend too much time on it anyway.
Yeah, generally when I get to this slide, I say we all know travel is a huge market, and then I just talk about who our target market is, like who our target customer is, because I think that's pretty relevant.
Yep. The other slide that I didn't catch, and correct me if I missed this one too, but a financial slide of saying when you did say that you've got you're looking at $30 million in sales over the next year or so. I didn't see how that's ramping up, how many customers that means, what does that look like? How do you back into that number? I didn't really have anything to gauge that against. And so I would
Yeah,
add something in there about that, because I want to see where you're going. And also I want to see what are you thinking? Even 3 years out, 5 years out, where are you envisioning this thing going over that time period? And what do you need to get there?
yeah. Okay.
So,
Yep.
Yeah, I generally have a different slot, a different deck that's got an appendix in it, and it's got like our roadmap and it's got the financials. But yeah, I think it makes sense what you're saying, to just kind of have at least an overview of like, here's our goals, here's how we're going to get there.
Yep. And so
and then here's the long-term
you
vision.
mentioned the roadmap as well, which would be really helpful to have both of those slides in there. And maybe you took them out because you're trying to cut this down to 7 minutes. I think you could take a little bit extra time and hit that. Here's where we've been on that timeline, and here's our roadmap. Here's what we've accomplished. Here's the roadmap, and here's the milestones that we've got going forward. And then have that flow into your financial projections, saying that, next year, once we've got the 300 influencers on board and we've got things rolling, we're going to hit 30 million in sales. Again, I'm going to go back to that question of, is that $30 million in gross sales? And am I really looking at 15% of that? And I want to just clarify that. And I would probably have that in a graph of some sort, saying, here's this and here's the 15%. But I want to see, what am I going to get, over the next, 1, 2, 3 years, in terms of that real cash that's coming into the business, that net revenue.
Yeah. Okay.
And you could do one of those double-sided graphs, right? It's like revenue and then take home, and you could show them as they correlate to each other.
Yeah, or even a stacked bar graph or something, and show, here's the total revenue, here's the 15% what we're taking, and showing how that's growing over time, and how many customers or trips that takes to get in there. So I've got a good idea of, okay, what does this mean, and is that scalable? That would be the one thing that I would worry about, is that you mentioned that you put this 100,000, or that you put this money in, you generated all this business, and it was too much. So it was kind of the positive and the negative. I'd want to get comfortable with, okay, now if we put in a few $100,000 into marketing, can you really handle that, and what does that mean? So you might want to address that as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was basically, the first two versions of the product were just like very stapled together. There was no real back office built. It was like, we just didn't expect to get the influx that we did. And so, this version that we're about to launch now is full automation, right? Okay. So it's like the ability to just scale massively. But I could see how making that really clear is important.
Yeah, I would make that clear for sure.
I think if you did a roadmap and you said, I love this slide of what we've done today, and you kind of did that, but you could even do that with a timeline, right? Like we launched MVP 1, ran an experiment, we brought in this much revenue, fixed some stuff, launched version 2. This is what the outcome of that was. Now the milestone is to launch version 3 and do some things, and that takes us right along with you, and you can address those concerns.
Yeah,
and you're educating us, right? And I think a simple slide can solve that.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's good advice. Yeah, I'm writing these down.
You're good. Jeff, any other feedback?
No, overall, like I said, Gary, I think you did a great job, and impressive in terms of not only the traction, but the fact that ATX is in this and that we went through Launch House. I think those are great positives. So again, a lot going for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, for me, I'm nitpicking because we can.
Listen. I prefer to, get as granular as possible on this than like, oh yeah, we love what you're doing. I mean, listen, I worked in film before as as a producer and a writer, and the last thing I want is to give somebody a script to get their opinion, and they're like, oh, it's amazing. I'm like,
right.
Tell I don't care what's good about it. I already know what's good about it. Tell me what doesn't work.
Right. So let's start with a couple things. I think one, you've got 10 to 12 minutes. You're very engaging. I
Mhm.
didn't get bored in the conversation, which does happen.
Okay.
So you can use the whole 10 to 12 minutes.
Okay.
And that means you can slow down in certain areas so that I get a better idea of what's happening.
Okay.
A lot of people, if you're new, they don't have that skill set. It really comes with practice, and obviously being in the film industry, you've had that kind of communication practice.
Sure.
So with that being said, slow down on the solution. I actually have no idea how your product works, and I kind of don't care because it's like selling.
Yeah.
But the things that Jeff and I are going through too, we would also be asking, right? I'd be like, hey Gary, can you walk me through how the solution works in our little 10-minute Q&A? But I think that you can take a little bit more time and pause on those screens. Those screens are so small, and I'm looking like, and we're using
Yeah. I mean, you
StreamYard.
can't. Yeah. I mean,
I
obviously,
couldn't read them,
see what's
but if it
happening.
was a full screen, it'd probably be a different situation.
What I generally do too in the pitch is I when I get to this slide, I say like, I can show you a product demo, but let me walk you through the whole experience. I think that showing people the product demo like in the middle of the thing just kind of like breaks up the story.
Yeah,
Well, I
totally.
haven't done it, so
But you could split that slide into 4, really zoom in on the areas, and then have that same experience, right?
right.
So that's one way of doing it. Something to think about.
Yeah. Okay.
So you mentioned paid ads, but I also didn't understand what that meant until like way later, until we talked about like how you acquired these clients or these Instagram accounts, and then you ran some traffic to your social media. I'm assuming that's what's happening. I didn't really understand what paid ads meant, because when I think of influencers, so I'm thinking, let's say Jeff's an influencer. I'm like, hey Jeff, will you use my product? And he does, and then all of a sudden it brings in revenue. And I was like, where does the ads come in? Like, did I pay Jeff? Like, I don't understand how that worked.
Yeah, so paid ads are what if you use social media and you scroll through Instagram, you'll see like, every fourth post you'll see an ad,
Sure.
right? And so it's
Yeah,
being fed to you based on algorithms of like what you're interested in and what you've looked at
totally.
already. And so those are the paid ads
Yeah,
that
yeah.
we've
I
done.
just didn't understand how they connected to the influencer. That's what I meant. Because I look at Jeff as my advertiser.
Right. And so that's right. And so with the influencer, yeah, and this is where things get complicated. And I just don't like to make things more complicated. But our business is broken up into 70% working with the influencers and 30% our social media and paid ads. Right. And so
Gotcha.
with the influencers, it's completely organic. Like there's no cost of acquisition. You see Jeff's post, you buy it, it's great. It didn't cost a penny for
Yeah.
for that to get in front of you. With the paid ads, which is what we did and saw really successfully, we did what's called white labeling. And so we can run ads through an Instagram account. So it looks a lot more organic. It doesn't look like you're being fed an ad.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what we did through our social media accounts to get that kind of traffic. And then people would enter our funnel based on seeing that like piece of content, that ad, so to speak. And then they were able to click through and enter our sales funnel from there. And then, book and that.
Yeah. So what I would say then in that case maybe is, right, slow down a little bit on the solution. And then you're saying, here's what we did. We have 2 use cases.
Okay. 2 use cases.
We have the influencers and
Yep.
then the social media that we own. You have these 2 groups, right? We know it works because we ran ads just to our own, and without the influencers, which is what we're going to get to and grow, then we ended up with a 1.2 million, right? So we know the product works. We've tested it. We know other people will generate more leads for us as well. So now, and you're like, look, we know that's a 70-30 split, like Jeff mentioned. You can put a stacked bar chart. You can show us the different revenue streams that you can make through both of those different channels.
Right.
Right. So that's
Yeah.
one way to do that. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that'd be really clean and really easy to communicate. One thing I would have loved to have seen is the previous raise. You mentioned all the investors, and that's great. I think we may have spent a little bit too much time on that slide, but it's fine. You had a lot of backers, and I think explaining like the people that were in the travel industry as investors as well. But I would have loved to have known how much was already brought in to get you to where you're at.
Okay.
As Jeff stole my thunder, I really would remove the thank you slide, incorporate it with the ask. It's just a much better ending.
Yeah.
Milestones, take home. Jeff mentioned that. And yeah, I think that other than that, honestly, like I'm just nitpicking because it can. One of the other things I would have said is I was kind of actually confused by your business model slide. You mentioned the 15 to 20%, but what I would have loved to have seen, and again, as you develop this, is an influencer is roughly worth this much money per year.
Yeah, it's hard to say that because I mean, we can do a general. I mean, here's the thing about the influencers is that, they all have different engagement rates. And so, yes, we anticipate a 0.01 conversion, you know what I mean? So we can anticipate what an average influencer is going to look like, but it's obviously going to vary drastically across, you know what I mean, which influencers are on the platform and how much engagement, rate they get, et cetera, et cetera.
But you could say that a view, let's say, for example, a view conversion of your 0.1 is worth, let's say, $1,000. I'm just going to make up a number.
Yeah.
We know, and you can just say, look, we're going to grow from 1 to 50 to 1,000, and we can mathematically calculate that, right?
Yeah.
So you're just going to give a average ballpark value to the influencer view, because that's the metric that you need.
Yeah.
Right? Same thing with yours, the paid ads. You ran an ad, they clicked through to your Instagram account, and then they converted. And like you said, you have a number for what that would look like, and you can extrapolate that.
Right.
So I would like to see that, because that's like your cost of good, those things. Just
sure. Yeah, no, I think these notes are good. I think they clarify a lot of things. I mean, I get a lot of questions around some of the things that are a little bit harder to explain.
Yeah.
But figuring out how to just make it super clear and super short has always been the biggest challenge.
Yep. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. That's all the feedback I have. Jeff, anything else?
No, I think you covered it really well, and hopefully this was helpful,
Cool.
Gary.
Yeah. So it's down to the final question, and that's
Yes.
based off of what you saw today, Jeff. Would you move this company on to due diligence?
So actually, I would. I think you gave me enough, Gary, to say you piqued my interest. The key things for those that are listening. What caught my attention was the traction. You've got some obvious traction. You've got a model that is, scalable, that we could put money into. And then the fact that ATX is in there, I think is great, that you've already got half this round committed, basically. Those are all good things for an investor to have that comfort. It kind of de-risks it to some extent there. And so, yeah, I'd dive deeper. With that said, I think, there's some things you can clean up. I think getting more clarity on what the economics look like and that will be super helpful. But those are the things I'd dive into in kind of due diligence is, let's jump into your financials and see what this really looks like. But you did enough to get me excited about taking that next look.
Yeah, good. Awesome. Good to know.
Yeah, same thing from me. I loved it all. The traction was really, really fascinating for where you're at with the product. And I would love to learn more. And the learn more is basically what we talked about from a feedback point of view times 10, right? Like I want to go deeper into those things. But give me a little tease of some of the questions I'm going to ask you anyways. So with that, Gary, thank you so much for sharing what you're up to. And if you're out there looking for help from pitch decks, please reach out. We've got a lot of contacts who love to help. We love helping. If you need help on your financials, check out Forecaster. There's a link in the bio. You can get a pretty solid discount there as well. And again, Gary, thank you for being here. Jeff, thank you for being here. And we'll see you all next time.